How's it going, Dave and Comic Book Investments? So this will be my review of Thor 4, Love and Thunder. There will be tons of spoilers in this, so I'm not going to hold back. So if you haven't seen it, you don't want it spoiled, I'm going to talk all spoiler stuff. So let's just get into it. So what did I think about this movie overall? I I had this conversation with my friends afterwards. I was thoroughly entertained. I thought it was very, very funny. It was probably, I think, at least in my opinion, the funniest MCU movie I think I've seen out of I've seen all of them. So I'm pretty sure. Obviously I can't remember some of the older ones, but it's probably the funniest MCU movie. So as entertainment value, going to the theater and just trying to be entertained, I was definitely entertained. It was really, really funny. Really, really funny. Like jokes almost through the whole thing for the most part. A couple times, obviously, they brought it down because it was a more serious moment. But yeah, super, super funny. I laughed out loud a ton. Honestly, if this was a comedy, it's probably one of the best comedies I've seen in a long, long time. Honestly, there was a trailer for some, I have no idea. It was a comedy. It was supposed to be a comedy. I couldn't remember what it was called. And I had to do with, I think, a Filipino family. I'm not entirely sure. Anyways, this guy owes this person money, and so the gangster comes to his family's house, and the guy's like, "Well, I'm gonna steal your phones." This is in the trailer. This has nothing to do with Thor, but it's supposed to be a comedy. This is my point. The big joke in the trailer was he steals their phones, and every single person in the family had the same password, like 217 or something like that. And he goes, why do you guys all have the same password? And he goes, it's Manny Pacquiao's birthday, which is a boxer. And so I was like, that was the big joke in the trailer. I didn't laugh at all. And I'm like, comedies these days are just bad. There's bad. I've not seen a single comedy recently that's been like funny all the way through at all. Like, you might watch a comedy. I just stopped watching them because it's like you watch them for an hour and a half and it's like, you might laugh once. And maybe comedies have always been like that. I don't know. But they're not funny. This was funny through and through. Most of the time, it was funny. Like, actually laugh out loud. Not like you're sitting there and go, oh, that was kind of clever. That was funny. It was like actually laughing out loud. I know a lot of people hate this version of Thor because he's even, if you haven't seen the movie, he's even dumber than he was in previous ones. And he's like regressed character-wise. So, like, yeah, he's basically the butt of a lot of jokes. He's, the typical I'm a man and can't really do anything right kind of thing. They do that, and then the women are like the ones that are, oh, we're going to solve all the problems type of thing. But it didn't really bother me that much because it was so funny. That's the thing. It was really funny. Like, me and my friends had this debate. They're like, well, is it a good movie? And I'm like, well, what constitutes a good movie? Like, a good movie is you go there, sit for 2 hours, whatever it is, and you're entertained based off of what you went there. So if it's a scary movie, if you come out scared or you're scared during the filming, that's a good scary movie. If it's a comedy and you laugh the whole time, that's a good movie. It hit the marks. I mean, if you're talking about like good movie in terms of like storytelling, acting, plot holes, running through all the emotions when it's supposed to be sad, you're really sad, all that's supposed to be happy, all that kind of stuff, then I would say no. I would not say this is a good movie. But if you're going there for entertainment, super entertaining. Chris Hemsworth is at his peak funniest. I just watched him in another movie he was in on Netflix, like the Spider Webs or something. It was not good. Waste of time. Don't watch it. He's like a pharmaceutical thing, and he's trying to somewhat play his funny side. It just doesn't work. It only works for Thor. So I was definitely entertained. It was super funny. I can go through a lot of pitfalls where the movie kind of falls apart, and a lot of complaints and rants that I have about this movie in terms of, this movie in terms of entertainment, I would give this movie like pretty much a 10 out of 10 if the ending was just fell apart completely. There's a couple jokes that didn't land. They tried to make Natalie Portman funny out of nowhere. Like they're walking and then she tries to have some jokes and it just felt so forced and it just didn't work and it felt so out of character. Like when they tried to make, like, I don't know what it was. When they tried to make Natalie Portman funny to make her, I guess, more seem likable, it just didn't work at all. At all. I mean, I don't know why. It just felt so forced and bad. But so one of the here's some complaints. So Gore, played by Christian Bale, Batman. His origin story starts off. The whole movie starts off with like this very somber, like very he's dying. His kid is dying. They can't find water, and his kid ends up dying. And then right after the kid dies, he buries the kid. Then he sees this oasis where there's a god, and he's like, I worshipped you. I did all this, and the god's like, I don't really care. I'm just gonna kill you. And then Christian Bale happens to get the ebony blade, kills the god, and then the blade corrupts him, and he's gonna kill all gods. That his little origin scene was like 2 minutes, maybe. Like you don't him with his daughter that dies, minute and a half. So his whole mission is to kill the gods because he felt like they didn't help him and his daughter died. But that was like, you get like, I think the actress that played the daughter got like one word, maybe one line or something like that. I don't even remember what the line was. It was a throwaway. Either I'm thirsty because they're dying of thirst or I love you. One of those. And she dies. Literally, but like, you get like 10 seconds of her on screen like face because he's like holding her most of the time, so you see her back or you see his face, and see her, and then she's like laying in his arms, says one word, dead. He buries her. Like 10 seconds of this actress, and so you're supposed to feel some kind of connection with these characters, like, oh my gosh, he lost his daughter, but it's like, no, like I feel nothing for this daughter. So the payoff at the end was worthless. It is worthless because I'm like, who's this character? Like, I don't care. So he gets the ebony blade. His whole purpose is to destroy all gods. And one of the problems with this movie is the tone was kind of all over the place. When Christian Bale was on screen, it was super scary. And oh my gosh, the visuals when they go to like the shadow world or whatever, amazing, because everything's in black and white. But whenever the Thors and Valkyrie use their powers, it would shine light on them and turn them in color, like little bits of color. Loved it. That was fantastic. At first I was like, oh, this is kind of weird, this shadow realm, but then it made a lot of sense. So it jumps between like Gore's like super scary and super serious, and then Thor's very jokey, and he has this joke between Mjolnir and Stormbreaker, and they're like competing for his love. I don't know, it's pretty funny. There's also these goats. Yeah, it was pretty. It's very, very funny. I'll say that much. But the one thing that kind of like bugs me about the MCU going forward is they make everything too kiddish in Disney. And I had this conversation with my friends. I was like, none of the previous MCU movies, like I'm talking about the original MCU moving forward, were like kid-centric. And he's like, well, they got to get the new generation. And I was like, Iron Man 1. I don't even think there was a kid in it. And if there was, it was this kid passing by, and maybe Tony Stark had like one word of dialogue to said to that kid or something like that. Or he saved a kid, right? I think the car was falling on a family and a kid, like a mother and a kid, and you like pick the car up or something and save the kid. Like, that's it. There's no like, they took itself very serious, and it was very, adult driven, but kids loved Iron Man. Toys were selling everywhere, every place, because kids watched Iron Man, liked Iron Man. I don't need a 10-year-old in the film so another 10-year-old can relate to the film. You just throw them Iron Man and you're good. And so that's the problem. It's like, so they have a bunch of kids that get captured by Gore, the Butcher. And so then they have to go save them. And he keeps on going these force ghosts. I don't know what the hell he's doing. But he's like projecting himself over there. And he keeps talking to the kids. And the kids, I'm like, they're just taking up. He does it multiple times. And it's like, it just becomes like kind of like almost like cheesy slapstick. What's the word? Like, like those Disney shows. I don't know what they're called, but they're like for like preteens and teenagers, like Hannah Montana, Lizzie McGuire, like those types of Disney shows. It's like really stupid and dumb, and it kind of starts turning into that. And then at the end, this is where it completely falls apart. Gore the Butcher, and also it makes no sense. Like I don't know what the hell they were doing. The whole purpose of Gore the Butcher is he's trying to get to eternity, where he's basically it's a wishing well, and he can wish for anything he wants, and he's going to wish for all the gods to die. So of course the two Thors have to battle Gore the Butcher to get him back, and he has his army of shadow creatures, and he has all the kids there because he kidnapped them because he wanted. I don't know. He wanted Thor to show up. Like, the whole reason he kidnapped the kids to begin with was to get Thor to show up there so he could take Stormbreaker, because he needed the Bifrost that Stormbreaker had so he can go to eternity. But then he gets Stormbreaker, but then he still keeps the kids. Like, that's where it's just, like, so stupid. So he kidnaps all these kids because he wants Thor to come save him. He beats up Thor, takes his axe, because his axe has the magical power to warp wherever he wants to warp. And he goes to eternity, which is the center of the universe, where it's basically a wishing well, and he can wish for anything he wants in the world, and he's going to wish for all the gods to die. All right, so you already took Stormbreaker. Why did you take the kids? You don't need them anymore. You only took the kids to lure Thor over. You have nothing to do with the kids. You don't care about the kids. But he takes them anyways. He takes all the kids anyways. Why? I don't know. Just so Thor has to show up again, and then we get a stupid scene with the kids? It makes no sense. And that's what I'm saying is, like, the MCU is going this direction where they keep on forcing kids or kid actors or all this kind of stuff into it. And I'm just like, oh, it just makes it so cheesy. So when he gets there, all the kids are standing there and they're scared. And they have to fight all these shadow monsters. And he basically gives them the power of Thor. So each kid is strong as Thor and can wield lightning and everything like that. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, why didn't he do this at any other point in all the MCU stuff? So all the little kids are out there. They, like, one girl picks up a weapon and it's like a stuffed animal, and she starts beating these monsters, cutting them in half with the stuffed animal, and it's just like super cheesy and dumb. And I'm like, oh god. And then at the very end, they fight. They actually lose to Gore the Butcher, and he goes, but they kill his blade, and the blade is the thing that's corrupting him. And he goes inside eternity, and Thor's like trying to stop Gore the Butcher, and he gets him to make his wish. And Thor goes, you know what? You already won. There's nothing I can do. I'm just going to spend my last seconds here with Jane Foster. And so Gore the Butcher, because he doesn't have the blade that's corrupting him, decides, like, Jane Foster's like, well, what do you really want? Do you really want to wipe out all the gods? He's like, no, I actually want my daughter back, that you got like 2 seconds of screen time with. And then he has a change of heart, of course. So what does he wish for? He wishes for his daughter back. Oh, but what do you know? He's dying too, because the ebony blade was actually like trying to kill him or something. I don't know. Anyway, stupid. So he dies. He goes like this. He's like, I'm dying. He's like, what point is there, to have a daughter that's not going to be raised by her father? And then Jane Foster goes, oh, Thor, he will raise your daughter. Just like that. And then, so he's like, okay, I'll wish for my daughter. Wish for the daughter, and then Christian Bale's Gore the Butcher dies. Just dies. And then Jane Foster dies, and then Chris Hemsworth's Thor is now a dad. Just like that. And I'm like, this is a wishing well. Like, why could you wish for, I want me and my daughter to live happily ever after, or whatever, make a wish. Why do you have to, like, I wish for my daughter back. Oh, but I have to die. Like, you can't wish for you to live as well. It's only one wish. Then how do you kill all gods? Wouldn't that be multiple little wishes, killing each one individually? This was stupid. It was just so dumb. The ending was just so anticlimactic. Ugh. But anyways, so now Thor, he's raising this daughter, and they're fighting battles together. And it's just like, ugh. Like, it was good all the way up to, like, the kids at the end. And there's nothing wrong with, like, kids being in a movie. I mean, I liked it, and I liked Stranger Things. Those had kids in it. But it's just, like, it gets too cheesy. Just, like, and they're trying to interject them. And I don't know. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. I found it really stupid, and I felt like they're forcing these kids to be there, so they're trying to make up new powers or make up random things to help them, to make them a reason to be there when they didn't even have to be there to begin with. There was no motive for Gore to even have the kids, because once he got Stormbreaker, he didn't care about the kids. He could have, it's not like he wanted to murder the kids. He had nothing against the kids. He literally just wanted to lure Thor there. He could have used this Bifrost and blasted them back to their homeland, because he's not like that. He just wants to kill the gods. So the motives are all weird, and then at the very end he makes a switch. I mean, so as a movie, there's just so many holes and things that don't make sense. But as a comedy, it's great. It's fantastic. I love it. So if you're going in here thinking that you're going to get a good movie or whatever it is, I don't think so. If you're going in here just wanting to laugh and have a good time, you're going to get that. As far as the overarching story, what does this do for the MCU? Jane Foster dies, so you don't have to worry about her being Thor anymore, which I figured she was going to. I mean, she was fine. Valkyrie was fine. Zeus, played by Russell Crowe. That's another thing. It's like you have Zeus, and you're like, oh, Zeus is going to be this powerful god. And he has this weird lisp and accent that he's doing, and I'm like, what are you? It makes him look like a fool. And so that's why I'm so confused. You have Gore the Butcher. It's like whenever he's on screen, it's like scary and eerie. And then you have other times where you have the kids in it. It's like you're watching like a Disney preteen show, like a Disney kids show. And then and then obviously you have Thor making jokes every which way it turns. And then I'm like, is it like my friend's like, well, this is how they get kids in it, because they want to, I'm like, this is not appropriate for kids. They make sexual jokes. And he kills Zeus, he kills someone, and so I'm just like, it feels weird. Why is this for kids? But then because you want kids in there, but it's really not for kids. And Zeus is constantly talking about orgies the whole time, and they have naked Thor on screen, stuff like that. So I'm like, don't tell me you're trying to make this for kids. It's a PG-13 movie. You're making it for 13 and older. That's simple. Don't interject these little tiny kids in there, because they really serve no purpose other than their overarching. I think Disney is on this agenda to interject kids into everything, to make it more kid friendly. I don't know. But I'm like, how is this going to go forward? I was asking my friend, it's like, when Avengers 5 or whatever the new big thing is going to be, who are we going to get? Who's going to be in there? Are we going to have Thor and Miss Marvel and, Kate Bishop and, Doctor Strange? I'm like, I don't want that. Infinity War is probably one of my favorite ones, and it took itself serious, and it had no real kids other than Tony Stark's, daughter in it. Was she in the first one? I can't remember. They just kind of blend together. But anyways, it's a small scene. There's nothing wrong with you're showing the family side and they have kids, obviously. It's just when the kids start battling Thanos, it's like, God. That's the stupid part. That's it. Let me know what you guys think.